I get night vision mode. Hey! Nobody's scared of your bitch ass! Do you ever make noises when you play scary video games? Because I definitely don't. Oh, please. Well, thankfully, this game listens to you better than my random teammates do in Apex Legends. What's going on with you? Are you okay? Do you have to go potty? What are we crouched over here for? Like the title says, the game's big fancy gimmick is that you can use your microphone to interact with the ghosts. Until a certain point in the game, when making noise works against you. Yo, bitch! Oh! I am going to keep it an absolute dollar with you all, and share my hot take of the day. This game is not great, but it was entertaining. English or Spanish? Much of what made it entertaining was that it was funny, and I don't think that was the intention, but it definitely got me a few times. The source of the scares were pretty much all jump scares. There were a couple moments where the setup was really creepy and unsettling and really made me feel like I was in danger. But those moments were very few and far between. Can you please be nice? And a lot of the jump scares were just not really earned and didn't have any real build-up. They just kind of jumped. Which is pretty cheap, I gotta say. But what does the most heavy lifting in terms of creating an unsettling atmosphere definitely has to be the house. Because thanks to the power of Unreal Engine 5, the lighting and reflections looked super realistic, which made the house look more realistic. But yeah, when the game wasn't scary, it was incredibly goofy, and there was no in-between.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
It definitely made me giggle. From graphical glitches and an unfinished map, to being overall pretty horribly optimized, with pretty consistent frame drops for no reason, this game is proof that Unreal 5's beautiful lighting and visuals in general can carry an experience. I will admit, talking to the monster was actually pretty fun, but I wish it had a bigger variety of phrases it could detect. Because most of the time it just kind of felt like it was reading my volume. Ice Spice haircut having that. The game is also super short, and filled with triggers that you have to wait for to progress, which kind of just padded the experience long enough for me to not be able to refund it. While I don't think that was the intention at all, it was just interesting how close it was to the 2-hour mark after having completed like 3 stretched out tasks to finish the whole game. I also have to point out that the writing wasn't great either, and kind of felt like AI, with lines that didn't feel supernatural and just kind of felt weird, like these.
Mrs. Susan is missing.
Mrs. Suzanne is missing? You're being a bit vague, babe. I was really hoping to spend some alone.
Vague? He just said it. Also, what was this?
Where are you? Okay, this fucking time, I won't let anyone escape.
Why did my guy turn into a psychopath? Now, the dev did have to translate it a ton, so we should definitely cut them some slack, but the funny writing, in combination with some of the weird animations the models were doing, just kind of killed some of the tension. But you have to keep in mind, it is so ambitious to tackle voice acting, writing, story, and design in general, on top of actually making a game that functions by yourself. So we gotta give them massive credit there. I just wanted to point these flaws out because you, as a paying customer, have a right to know. And that's my only real issue with this game. It feels unfinished, but wasn't released as early access. Since it's only $8, the bar is a little bit lower, but I've had some pretty insane experiences with cheap but complete indie games. So here's some things I think would help the game. 1. Please fix the menus. For 1, they're hideous. For 2, not having a mic device selection in any of the menus when your game relies heavily on it mechanically is just straight up stupid. Even with the little disclaimer in the beginning, that's gotta be priority number 1 to fix because that's just bad quality of life. 2nd, add something to the light switches so that you can find them when you're in the dark, please. I straight up couldn't access these 2 rooms until like the second half of my playthrough because I couldn't see the damn light switches. Holy shit. How much was I looking right there? Please add some kind of orange glow like these lights. Or an outline or something, because I don't know what this house is supposed to look like, or where they put their nearly camouflaged light switches. Unfortunately, I found out much later from watching someone else play the game that there was a flashlight the whole time, so this criticism actually kind of sucks. But even with the flashlight, it's still kind of hard to see the light switches, and it would have been nice to at least get like a button prompt on the screen, or some kind of message letting me know that I even had a flashlight. The last suggestion that I have is a little bit less specific, but is the most important by far. The last thing is that some of the puzzles were just not good. And by not good, I mean not really even puzzles at all. Most of them were kind of just Easter egg hunts where you don't really have to use any critical thinking. Just a notepad.
Stupid.
One section was really irritating for me because it took me longer to even figure out what the puzzle was than to solve the puzzle. Granted, I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but I figured, surely he won't make me look around for tiny knobs in the darkness. Because I just spent 30 minutes looking for a light switch. And as you know, a light switch is only going to be on the walls. There's only so much wall space to look at. But I eventually was surprised and relieved to find out that they were glowing so I could find them even in the darkness. But like, it would have been much cooler if I even knew I needed to find them. Because the knob sockets... that sounds like a British insult. You knob socket. But the knob sockets looked like the knobs themselves, so I was just confused. I'll credit that to a skill issue though, because I'm not very smart and I'm no detective. If I can't even find a light switch, then, well, you know, what kind of detective am I? But like I said earlier, once I found out I needed the glowing knobs, I just went and found them all with little effort or thought. So what I would suggest, instead of using the glowing switches that are scattered around in the darkness, that color match to a specific spot on the breaker, I think it would be cool if you started with a couple switches that can power one room at a time, so then you have to use the breaker to figure out which room you're lighting up, and you light up each room to find the switches in that room. Then, once you find the switches in that room, you plug them into the breaker, and you light up more rooms. So you can see you're powering more and more of the house as time goes on, and you're being strategic in which rooms you're lighting up. Now, this was my first thought after 30 whopping seconds of brainstorming, but it requires slightly more brain power and feels more like you are actually solving something, rather than just matching numbers and shapes. Granted, I'm no game dev, so I have no clue how hard it would be to implement all that. All I do know is that the puzzles were no good. And I actually felt dumber playing as Mr. Sherlock here. So, I'll be straight up and say I didn't love it. But there were some decent scares, and the voice mechanic was alright. So if that sounds cool to you, go check it out. I just would recommend not taking it too seriously if you're gonna get it. But if you could do that, I think you'll have a bit of fun. But yeah, thank you for watching if you made it this far. Please drop a like and a sub if I saved you $8, or if I put you onto your new favorite voice recognition game since Talking Ben.
No.
I stream random games all the time on my Twitch, so go ahead and check that out too. There's a link in the description. And I also have a link to my Discord, so I put updates for my stream and just for the channel in general in there. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll be seeing you next time. Stick around.